Welcome to Frequently Speaking. This is your host, Maxwellness. Now, here on this podcast, we're going to start to break down words that we speak outwardly and how their vibrations create what we frequently see. So, welcome, Miss Shannon. Thank you. And
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for tuning in today to Frequently Speaking. I have Miss Shannon Hsu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm like such a linguistic. I love it. She is a holistic practitioner, somatic coach, wonderful human being, therapeutics all throughout the body, throughout the emotions. She's so many different facets that I wanted to bring her on and really share this topic with you. And we're going to get into that. But before that, I want her to share exactly what brought her into this, into her multifaceted, ever alluring, continuously shifting and changing and forming being as I wouldn't even call you a therapist. You're like, what are those things that like pull those light things that like buzz all the mosquitoes, but they like bring you into the light and then they zap you with all this energy. It's like, oh yes, whatever those things are.
I'll take that. Without the killing though, because those things do kill the bugs.
This is true, but as a human, you're not a murderer. So.
Right. So it's just the zapping of energy. Okay, I'll take that.
Yes, it is the metaphorical zapping of energy that I feel like the stories you've told me and the interactions you've had with people is the same thing I've felt. And if I haven't conveyed that to you and expressed it to you, this is what I've always felt. Is like there's always just this burst of energy. It's within your laugh, it's within the articulation that you speak, the stories that you share, just like your perspective on everything, which is what really evoked this episode, right? Is like bringing this together, because it's like we want to share this. And, you know, even though we're joking and everything right now and keeping it very lighthearted, there is this aspect that we go in deeper with both of our practices. And this is really what I want to create this space for you to share exactly your not even your perspective, but your input and your approach to not only just your practice, but your lifestyle as well. So can you share? I mean, I've been blessed to know you for so long, but bless the people right now with a little bit of what got you into this, where you are at, and what is your general overlying approach?
Okay, so what got me into this work is just, I think I'm probably what a lot of people can resonate is like a personal journey. So I'm just my own personal journey of coming back to my center, of understanding myself more. And I think a big driving force for me has always been like healing my family, like healing my lineage, understanding them more. And when I look back at my life, I actually feel like I've been on this journey since I was about 5 or 6 years old. I remember being 6, 7, like riding my little bicycle around my neighborhood, and I would just always be having conversations with myself, always being like, oh, why did I do that? And why did I feel that? And what did that person do? And what So yeah, I've just always been in conversation with myself from when I was a kid. And then, so I feel like I've always been aware, but that awareness grows. And I think that's what we've got to keep space for always, is continuously growing that awareness about self and therefore the awareness of the world around you. And then, you know, when I was 18, I went into dance and entertainment, totally unplanned. And that was definitely a big ego shift for me. I think I went from being an extremely confident person that knew herself pretty well. And then only when I started in the dance and entertainment industry that I felt really activated about my self-identity, because I was suddenly in spaces where I had to compare myself to other people and where other people were being compared to me. So I think being in that entertainment and dance space where you're constantly on show and constantly seen, I had to dig a little bit deeper into the ego side. And I think prior to that, I was probably a lot more in my soul side because it was just connected to me. And now I had to be connected to the world and see myself through other people's eyes. So that was a huge shift for me. And then in my late 20s, I started to realize that I've kind of lost myself through that process. I think I was really deeply connected to myself. And then there was probably in my mid-20s that my focus went from internal to external. And in that space, I lost the connection, the deep connection I had for myself. I got too connected or making my choices from my ego self. And then in my late 20s, early 30s, I realized like I kind of had to burn everything to the ground in order to come back around. And that's what I did. I think I was 32 and I still remember the moment actually. I was in the middle of this massive concert tour that I had organized. I had flown in these huge choreographers from the US. We were doing a week-long production. We had 200 dancers that have flown in from Australia, Asia, New Zealand to come do this thing. Like, it was huge. Yeah, it was big. And I was sitting, and the venue was a circular venue, which is ironic because I felt like I was seated in the middle of it, in the middle of all this energy and this experience that I had created. And I was sitting there and I had this thought in my head. I was like, oh my God, I don't want any of this.
Really?
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, I still remember that moment. And it was, yeah, and I think there was a lot of symbols there because the venue was circular. So I felt like I was right in the middle of it and I was really still and everything was just moving around me. And it was so busy, so much happening. We had sold like 800 tickets for the show at the end of the week. And like, it was huge and it was such a huge success. And I was sitting right in the middle of it all and being like, oh, I don't want any of this.
Really?
Yeah. And then I literally felt like it was just under my my rib cage. I felt like something shifted back into place. And I always describe it like my soul clicked back in.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah. And I remember that moment, like exactly where I was, what thought I had, everything, and the feeling that I had in my body. And then that was kind of it. From that moment onwards, I kind of closed up 2 businesses, left my relationship at the time that I had been in for 8.5 years. Yeah. So it was
clicking.
Major click. And it's so wild because from that moment to me walking away and like shutting everything down was like less than 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just like, I don't know. That clicking back in was like me being like, okay, I have to trust myself and come back to my soul because I've been led by the ego for the past, maybe by that point, maybe like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Really like my late 20s to early 30s. And I think the relationship that I was in at the time played a big role in that because, I think whoever you choose to be with, your partners, they either mirror you or they reflect you, and then you end up creating this interconnected experience. And my partner at the time was very externally orientated, very very focused on money and monetary and I guess the things of the world. And I found that throughout that relationship, I was always battling it. You know, I was always like, no, I don't want this. No, I don't want that. I don't want this. Da, da, da. But it was always this battle. And then I think I had so much going on in my own personal life and my career that I was able to lose that focus. So I'd battle it, and then my focus would shift, and then I would battle it, and then my focus would shift. But once that soul clicked back in, I was like, okay, I don't want any of it. And when I said I don't want any of it, I meant the relationship as well.
Whoa there.
Yeah. And then I kind of went into this path of just getting deeper into understanding myself more and learning and educating myself. And I don't think anything is ever black and white, because when I look back, I realized even through all my dance and entertainment experiences that I was creating, I was always bringing body, mind, soul into it. So every program that I created had an element of, connecting to self, connecting to your body, understanding yourself more. So I was already in that work, just in a different space. And then once I left that part of my life, I was able to just purely focus on that work. And because my whole life I have been moving my body, using my body as a form of expression, and my authenticity was deeply connected to it, it made sense for me to then move into somatic work. It's just what makes sense to me.
Right.
I already understood the power of the body, and I understood the power of being connected to the body. So the more I learned about the nervous system and trauma and did the education around what type of therapist I wanted to be, that was definitely just the most authentic, connected space that I wanted to be in.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So that's it.
Wow. That will do it. That will definitely do it to you. See, this is what I mean, that zap of energy, just that's where it comes from like real felt body experience of life, you know? Wow, yeah. That's freaking amazing to somatically and in your body feel this energetic shift, and like to know. And what you were saying was it brings back that book, The Body Keeps the Score. Is like when you tune into the body so much, and like, you know, it speaks a lot about trauma going into that way, but also like the good things. And this is kind of like, you know, what we were talking about is this sense of connection, right? It's like to hear you having this connection in your body and seeing how that feels, and feeling something like, yes, click back in, but also the recognition, like, there was something that was out of line this whole time, you know, and then feeling that energy just come back into alignment. It's like, sometimes that's what we actually feel. And when we externalize it, it's like, that's the connection that we're looking for with, you know, our partners or our parents or our siblings or whatever. It's like, we're looking for that external connection. Really, what we're just looking for is that alignment. But it sounds like after you took that and that experience and that energetic shift, it's like the kind of like the ripples just started happening. It was like, this needs to go, that was out of alignment, that was out of alignment. And it sounds very much like solar plexus to me. And for me, like that's more in a sense of identity and a little bit of willpower as well, but really like claiming to the identity of, you know, what I can have, you know, and what is actually not what I am, but what do I have in my life? You know, like this externalized world of whether it be an identity, whether it be material things. And it sounds like after that alignment, like those things just started falling away. You know, if I was the observer, I would see them as falling away. But as the person, it's like, I have to make these decisions to like cut this, stop that, close this, kick this guy to the curb, you know, like all of these different things. Like, it's always like this when me and Shannon connect and when we talk. And this is why I wanted to bring it into this container, because you guys need to get a little bit of this, because we be having talks like this every day. Not every day, but because since she's in the future. But I feel like with these dynamics of because I want to start by that. I feel almost like the complete opposite since I was younger. Like I didn't really connect with the feeling, but I always had the language for everything. I could
Oof.
always break something down and speak the unspoken, but it took all of these years to like feel that. So I see these like two polar opposites in us, and it's like, this is really what I wanted to bring to a lot of our conversations, because it's really about that polarity. It's this polarity that we always experience. We experience it within ourselves, we experience it with others. And if we don't have that awareness that this interaction and this relationship is happening, it's like, one, how can we heal? And I'd say healing in a context of moving forward and evolving and reconnecting and remembering, because everybody has their own definition to healing. And it's like, what meaning do you create with that? But we're not going to go there. But this, how can we, if we don't have that awareness, right? Like, how can we actually see this conversation that's happening? When we come in contact with, a partner or a parent, and we can't really see that dynamic that's happening. But if our body's feeling it and we can't find the language, it's like, where is that mind heart coherence, right? And I feel like this is really what's about to happen in this conversation, because what we're going to be bringing about is these two core things that really struck up a deep conversation with both of us. And we were just like, we need to birth something. We need to create this. The people need to hear this. And it's really about that deep sense and that urge and that almost yearning for connection that we all need, that core value for connection, but also that sense of craving. And as you were saying, as being a central nervous system coach and understanding how the central nervous system is, and, with my work in the central nervous system, I always tell people it comes down to two things. Like, your central nervous system only knows two things: up and down. That's basic layman's terms, before I get into all the details. But it's either you're in a survival state or you're in this thriving state, And when you have that deep core value of connecting, whether it be with a human, whether it be with a talent, whether it be with your purpose, whether it be with safety, whatever it is, we have that connection, whether it be God, it's like, I yearn for that connection. But then where do we get that aspect of when we start to numb ourselves, and how we can come back to ourselves from that craving? When we start to begin to crave things rather than connect to things, it's like, that's where I feel like with me when I was younger, right? It's like my connection was through the intellect. It was like, I'm going to break things down because I can say it. But it was also like when I didn't really come to understand the environment that I was in, and people couldn't understand what I was saying. Even though I was saying it so eloquently, so clear, they don't have that language. So it's like, it sounds like for you with your background, it was like you had that feeling, but it's like, how do I articulate it? So then it's like, for me, I started feeling that craving, not in a sense of I'm craving to connect to them. It was like, I crave that connection to more, that connection to the feeling. And I feel like that is another piece of the fuel that kind of perpetuated me into getting into therapeutics, getting into wellness, getting into, massage and training and all the different things. But I know that this is my passion. So when I start to look at this, it's like, we're all experiencing it. So if you have ever wondered, or if you're ever in a position that you feel like you're in this survival state and you're maybe numbing yourself because there's not that connection, or you're craving, relationship, or you're craving religion, or you're craving food, whatever that central nervous system reaction is, we're going to kind of go through this very slowly in a concept of what actionable things you can do, also coming from a position of the feeling aspect as well as the articulation, so that you can have verbiage around this, and you can also have this emotional intelligence to connect deeper to those emotions. So whatever person you are, definitely stay tuned and keep listening to this, because there's going to be some key gems in here that we're really going to break down, and we're going to make it fucking fun. Because yes, we are both professionals, but on the real, like, we're goofy as hell. So because
True.
it really comes down to that, right? It's like when we're coming to this healing aspect and we start to look at these deep set things, it's like if you can't have fun with it, it's like, yeah,
Right.
the work isn't meant to be hard, you know. It don't gotta be just digging, working all day in the field, you know. It's like, no, let's look at it and be really fucking honest with ourselves and really say, no, this is me. I'm numbing myself, or I'm harming myself, or this is where I need to take accountability and be serious, be an adult with yourself, but
Mm.
also integrate that inner child. And this is where I want to ask you is like, in that desensitizing, right? Like, what does that do to the inner child?
Mm.
That's going to be my first question to you.
Okay. Before I answer that, I just want to touch on what you said about not taking it seriously. I agree with that. I think joy has to be a part of any journey that you take because it's integral to the human experience. I don't believe that any type of work that we do or any relationship, anything needs to be in suffering.
Mm-hmm.
The more that we can lean into joy, the more that we can lean into that human experience of being on this earth and being in this world and not having to feel like this work has to be something that's painful and harmful.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the desensitization goes, yeah, I mean, as kids, we learn to do that as a form of protection. Right. So the nervous system is constantly looking for two things. It's either looking for the ability to detect threat,
Mm-hmm.
or it's looking for connection.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things are needed for survival.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And yeah, we went and we broke that down. And this is where I want to go into, because this is really what we want to tackle, is that survival state. So
Yeah.
just like what you were saying, is that create that craving, I mean, that detecting threat and that sense of connection. Where do you feel that comes from within our body? Like, why do we, like, I guess, why does the inner child, or maybe even the present self, kind of detach from the body and the feeling and like the somatics behind it? Like, what happens when I'm experiencing that?
Well, the thing is, I always take it back down to human biology, right? Like, yes, we have the soul experience, and we have the biology of actually being human, right? Because that's what the body is. Everything that is created within the body, the nervous system, the brain, the heart, all of it, all the mechanics, all the hormones that we have running through our body, they all have a purpose, and it's been beautifully curated and created for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And when we take it all the way back to why do we have these needs? It's because as a human species, we need it for our survival, right? Take away all the stuff that we know now and the way that we live our life right now in the 21st century, but take it back thousands and thousands of years. We evolved into this, and that evolution can only be possible through survival. So everything that happens in our body is geared towards that.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
So
when we think
we're
about
speaking on a cellular level, for
correct.
sure.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm going through this survival state, I need to be easy with myself because it's happening at cellular level, right?
Correct. 100%. Yes, exactly. So, when we think about the two needs that we have through the nervous system for our survival is to be able to detect threat and to be able to connect, because thousands and thousands of years ago, it hasn't changed our need, but it was a lot more prevalent, right? So when you were, living in tribes on Earth, out in the wild, you needed a tribe to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this connection, you needed a literal connection to other people in order to survive the world that you were in. And you also needed to be able to detect threat. You needed to be able to be like, okay, well, this other tribe is not a friend, or there's going to be, I can sense that there's a lion out there, or there's something that's dangerous. Yeah. So on a biological cellular level, we needed those two things for us to literally survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where our nervous system comes from. Right. And I always break it down to that, because when we break it down to that, the understanding becomes really simple. We as humans, because our mind is so incredible and we're able to create these stories, we attach things to the nervous system. We attach things to our cravings. We attach things to our needs. But if we take off all those layers, we come back to the basics of being a human, is that we need connection and we need to be able to detect threat in order to survive, period. Mm-hmm. So when you bring it down to that level, then you really understand why the nervous system works the way that it does. So there are 3 levels for the nervous system when it comes to protection. There's your survival reactions, or your survival mechanisms, which is freeze, flight, fight, fawn. And then they've also created a new one, which is flock.
Oh, like you just run into the crowd like a goose? Okay.
So you don't run into the crowd, but you wait for the crowd to do something before you do.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? So say, for example, someone falls over right in front of you, or there's a car accident. There's going to be a lot of people that are like, are you gonna do something? Should I do something? Right? So that's that flock mentality.
So, all right. So this is interesting, and this is why I love talking to you, because you go into like all the newest research, since you're like a day ahead of me, and I'm just like stuck in the Stone Age, and I'm like, okay, well, that person is just basically frozen. Like that's another, for me, it's like culturally, I see that as like the freeze. Like I don't like to complicate things. I'm like, it's freeze or you're gonna fight, like one of the two. Mm-hmm. And then I know that there are others, like how they can be expressed, and I think just coming back to what we were saying about like how that survival state, and we're only talking about this container of like survival state, where the central nervous system comes from, is like,
right,
when we detach from the body, whether it be physically, emotionally, culturally, whatever it is, like, so what I'm hearing is that, okay, this central nervous system, which is like the electricity in my body that's sending the connection from my mind to the rest of my body, on a cellular level, it's been programmed from my ancestors that were running from saber-toothed tigers and lions of tigers and bears, oh my. And now when I see my partner, leaving the dishes out, or texting, going into the room and texting, and that trigger happens, it's activating those cells, and it's activating that detecting a threat, like saying, okay, this is a threat, like to my relationship, to my safety, to whatever. So it's like all of these programs start coming out. So I see it in those different aspects. And then you're saying that the effect is you get one of those, now it's 5 reactional states, right?
Correct. You have reactional states to a stimuli. Yeah. Uh-huh. So the stimuli could be, yes, your partner, covers the phone while they're messaging. So you're like, uh-oh, I'm detecting a threat here. Like,
right.
Are they cheating? Are they doing whatever it is, right?
Right.
And then you go into whatever your survival mechanism is when you detect a threat. So that can be, more often than not, it's a fight, flight, or a freeze. Now, when we talk about desensitizing and disconnecting from the body, it's the freeze mechanism. And I'm going to explain why it's the freeze mechanism, okay? Mm-hmm. The reason that it's a freeze mechanism is because your freeze mechanism is when your body goes, not only am I under threat, which is bad enough, but my life is going to end. So it's gone from I'm in danger to my life is under threat.
Okay.
So,
and now, just to be clear, is this for men and women?
Men and women, yes, human beings. Okay. Women, although have a higher percentage of a freeze response.
Right. And I feel like that makes sense. And this is something I used to actually address when I was teaching women's self-defense. And it really came down to capability. Like they physically felt incapable of protecting themselves. They physically felt like they didn't have the ability to stop. So it went into like powerlessness and, you know, rewriting those things. So we would work on the physical abilities so that started to dissipate. And, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, it's central nervous system. I wasn't really looking at the reaction of like, oh, you froze, but I would hear these stories, you know, of, you know, friends of mine being on the train and, you know, some bum or some weirdo was like, you know, touching himself or whatever. And like, they were just frozen. And in my head, like as a man, I was like, you didn't do anything, like whistle, blow, like punch, scream, nothing. And to really come into that compassionate heart space, to really open up and say, wow, like this person doesn't have the capability. So their central nervous system just goes into that reaction of, I'm going to stop. So now when I hear you saying that, it's like that life-threatening, I guess, signal that says that. It's like now as men, we can start to see this freeze response. We definitely have freeze responses as well, but to look outside of ourselves and see it in that aspect, that it does come into capability. It does come into what we are able to do and what others aren't, you know?
And I will go as far as to say, yes, it does come down to capabilities, but it comes down to experience, right? So oftentimes our response as adults, which response we go into majority of the time, is established when we're kids.
Okay.
And when you think about a little girl, right? More often than not, everyone around them is going to be bigger, right? It's going to be bigger, stronger, etc., etc. So
I know girls I grew up with they were bigger than me.
But it's like, you know, when women or little girls are going up against, say, a man, their freeze response is going to be the one that comes up first or most predominantly, because more often than not, as little girls, you can't fight your way out of it. You can't flight your way out of it. So you freeze. And now the thing about the freeze response is when you go into a freeze response, what's happening on a biological, physiological sense is the nervous system has gone into, I'm no longer in danger, I'm under threat, which means I could die. And if I'm going to die, I don't want to be present for it.
Whoa.
Yeah. And if I'm not going to, so if I don't want to be present for this death, I'm going to disconnect. And when that happens, your memory center actually stops creating memories because it doesn't want to remember this, doesn't want to remember this high threat, right? All your blood from your hands and your legs, it floods your gut and it floods your center because the body starts to slowly shut down. This is why women have a higher percentage of autoimmune diseases. So autoimmune diseases is your body attacking your body because it feels so under threat. So, and the reason is women culturally, socially are programmed into being suppressed. Whether it's your voice, whether it is the way you express yourself, whether it's the way you dress, whatever, right? Like it's always about danger. I mean, my background is Asian. Like growing up, all I heard from my aunties and my achiamas, which is like grandma, is like protect yourself from men. Right? It was like, when you go outside, you have to wear this. When you go outside, you can't do this. When you do that, So it was always about managing a female's behavior in order to control a male response.
Whoa.
Rather than it being the other way around.
Right.
So when you are culturally and socially programmed for that, of course, more often than not, your system is going to be in a freeze response, because you're like, okay, well, everything around me is a danger, right? If I can't go outside the street and walk down the street without being attacked, then I'm going to be in danger. Yeah. And when we go into a freeze response, the mind and the body disconnect, which is why a lot of women and men who are sexually abused when they're young have no memories of their childhood, and when they're older are very disconnected from their body, which is why a lot of people who are sexually abused become really promiscuous, because they don't feel connected to their body. So the body is just an empty vessel that can be abused and used because it's not theirs. There's no connection there. It's also why people go into addiction, because when you disconnect, you stop feeling, right? And what the nervous system is saying when you're in that freeze response is that it hurts too much, it's too painful to be here. So I'm going to live.
Wow.
But we are created for authenticity, we are created for connection. So now there's these two opposing forces that are fighting within you, right? The parts of you that deeply want to be seen and heard and connected, and the parts of you are really fearful of that, because every time you've connected to something, every time you've been seen, every time you've been heard, it has come with a threat. So now your two core needs as human, to be connected and to be able to detect threat, become one and the same. So it gets a little bit murky. How do you separate the two?
Right. That's the question. And wow, I feel like there was so much there in just even that insight of really understanding like how deep it can go and the different ways that we're desensitizing ourselves, whether it's, you're numbing yourself, or, like you said, with addiction, with sex, with porn, with any of these things, anything in excess, it's because you're craving that connection to your body. And that's why like this topic right here is like to really get a discernment of like what that craving is and what that connection truly is. And to really, like you said, these two things become one and the same. It's like, can we peel them both from each other and like see, okay, I'm craving this right now, or am I connecting to this? And I feel like just like this deep compassion for those that are craving to connect to their body. So like to have both of them together, it's like I'm either overeating, or I'm over exercising, or I'm dating around, or I'm, doing all this excess to feel in the body. And I hear that so much because that is my perspective of what desensitizing is. It's like we think, when you automatically have that that idea of what desensitizing is, I've looked at it as it can go both ways. I can either have this sensitivity level that is, very in the middle and there's a balance to it. And it can go this way by meaning that I'm just shutting off all the senses and I'm desensitizing by numbing. Or it can go the opposite way where you were so overstimulated, like you said, with the culture, protect, that I protect so much that I disconnect.
Right.
So it's like you have this scale of what desensitizing actually is. And if we don't have that awareness of like, which side of the scale am I on? Was I desensitized by being stimulated so much that I'm disconnected from my body, and this also goes with, sexual addiction as well, especially like masturbation. When you're continuously doing it in excess, then you don't have that connection back to the body again. It's like I have to work my way back down. And the same way that if you don't feel comfortable in your body, or, whether it was sexual abuse and you had that checkout, it's like, then I just turn off all the systems. So I see that in that sense. And I feel like that drives me to the next question of how does the body interpret like what's happening to us and what we're doing?
Good question. So unless you're connected deeply to your body and you have an understanding of it, those two things become one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you aren't able to discern what's happening to you and what you're creating from your own actions unless you are deeply connected to self.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step is that awareness, is to be able to like see yourself as if you're watching yourself and to notice the choices that you're making, and understanding where you're making those choices from. And I always go back to biology, right? I always go back to the way that the body is created, because it leads to compassion. Because when we don't understand what's actually happening in our body and happening in our brain and our nervous system, we go into judgment. We're like, okay, well, I'm just doing this because I'm an idiot, or I'm just doing this because of that, or whatever, right? But when we, again, strip it all the way back, that discernment is hard for us to make because we make 98% of our choices from our subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the subconscious mind is directly plugged in through your brainstem into your nervous system, right? So everything that you're pressing up or pushing up is coming from the subconscious mind. So your nervous system is inputting and taking in all the experiences that you're having throughout your life from when you were a child. And it's things that are happening to you more often than not when you're a kid. Yeah. And then eventually, because the awareness is in there, the language is in there, you start to do things and make choices from that subconscious wiring. So now, where is the line between what's happening to you and what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I love that. And I feel like you said, it's kind of like, within your, I believe it's in the cerebellum, but it's kind of like this middleman between your mind and your body. And it's that middleman. It's like, if that middleman is a dick or it got programmed terribly, it's like, it's going to send mixed signals, or if there has a kink in it, it's going to send mixed signals, so this is why, we're always talking about the children and like telling that we need to put this into our children at a very young age, because that subconscious mind. But it's like exactly what you're saying is like, when those experiences happen to you, because when you're a young child, it's not happening for you. That's not the case. It's that when we've experienced that trauma and we've taken all that world has conditioned us, because we're coming into this world pure beings, and now I'm seeing more conscious parents, allowing the children to do their own thing, trying to have that non-involvement and, just kind of be there. And like, the less involvement I have, like the better, but just trying, and then they're working through their own things. But it's like, when those conditions have happened to us, now that we're older, that awareness comes in and we're aware of this subconscious stuff. And it's like, this stuff is not serving me. Oh, okay. These things, and then we tell ourselves, now these things aren't happening to me, it's happening for me so that I can learn a lesson, because it's all repeated patterns from our past. We've been repeating those patterns and playing out that subconscious thing that happened to us when we were younger. And now we're just in a state of either self-criticism, judgment, shame, guilt, blame, all of these things that we're projecting into our reality to live this world. And our central nervous system is responding to it. It's just response. Well, in this case, reaction, until you slow down. And this is the position that I take with, with my clients and the sessions. And also I do this with myself consistently, is like figuring out, like you said, these coping mechanisms. You have to find out and really identify and acknowledge, what is my mechanism here? And this is a practice of, these higher faculties of discernment, and say, okay, what is my mechanism when this thing happens? If I know that this line of, so to give some kind of background, right? Like, when it's coming from your center, you have a behavior, then you have a habit, and then you have a behavior, you have this action, then you have this habit. And it's like, that's how this thing echoes out. But if I'm always consistently just, I need better habits, then you're only focusing on that. You're not focusing on the action. Okay, then you start changing the action. Okay, well, that's not working. It's like, I want to change this behavior. The behavior hasn't changed because the behavior starts up here. So it's like, in order for us to really reel ourselves back from not judging ourselves of the terrible habits we have of, getting McDonald's at 2 o'clock in the morning, or the actions that we're taking by ghosting our girlfriend or our ex or whatever, or the behaviors that we have of like talking bad to ourselves. It's not any of those things. It's to recognize, what are my steps? How am I acting out into the world by slowing down? Whether that's in the breath, whether that's meditation, whether that's going to the ocean, experimenting with plant medicine, breath work. There's so many, like there's a plethora of things to figure out how am I expressing? What is this programming in this middleman? And then you make a plan to say, okay, what are the next steps, and take your time with it. Because this thing isn't just you happening right now. It's not in your central nerve. Like, yeah, you have the trigger and then it happens and I want to change it right now because it's in the present moment. It's like, relax, take a breath, and like realize that these things happened to you when you were younger and you've been living them out for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
And it's like to give ourselves some grace as we come back into that, to say, okay, and like this is what you said, it comes back to that compassion. Having that compassion and that grace for ourselves to say, wow, I'm realizing this right now. And like that for me is the healing. It's like, I'm realizing, I'm remembering right now that this thing is happening. Oh my God, thank you so much for showing me. Like when I experience triggers, I'm like, thank you so much for showing me this right now. Cause now I have an opportunity to remember.
Right. And change.
To give myself that time, right? To now, okay, I can change. I have this opportunity. But if we're moving so fast and we're so distracted by the day and all of these things are going on, then that's what catches our central nervous system, and then we can't respond. So we're still in that like survival state. So I feel like that's like what you were just saying, is when those things are happening to us, we kind of like are really hard on ourselves to say, oh, this is what I'm doing. But what you're saying is like we need to make that discernment between like what's happening here and what's happening here, as to what am I doing?
Right.
Because that message is coming up and the body's telling the mind, like, this is what you're doing. And it's like, no, like this is what happened to us. And then it gets down here, it's like, this is what you're doing. And it's like this miscommunication. So when that happens, like, how do you shift that feeling of like what's happening to us, and then realize also where it's coming from, like within us, and also that healing that's behind it, like to create that moment or that opportunity of that healing.
Yeah. I think healing only comes with compassion and curiosity.
Okay.
So we have to become real. We have to become real curious. We have to become curious about ourselves, about our behavior. And it's what you were saying before as well. Like when you get triggered, that's you being curious, right? You're like, oh, what is this trigger telling me? What is this? Right? So that's your curiosity. So that's what we need. We need to be curious about what's happening. And I think when we're curious, we're not judgmental. Right? Because judgmental comes without curiosity. It comes from like, okay, well, this must be what it is. It's a statement. Curiosity is a question. It gives us the space to explore. And I think that's what it needs to be. I think this healing journey needs to be exploration. I have a theory that I call the Goldilocks theory. And it's like, you know how Goldilocks, like she went in.
Of course. I am Goldilocks. Like, come on. That was actually my childhood nickname. When you told me this the other day, I meant to tell you that I had a friend in on my block when I was younger, and he used to call me Goldilocks.
That's hilarious. That's
so yes, let's go. I'm all for it because I'm with it. I love this theory.
Okay, so that's what it is. You know, it's like she went into that house and she was curious. She was like, this is too hot. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. That's too cold. This is right. And I think life has to be like that. And oftentimes we become so judgmental because we tried the one that's too hot. And instead of going, oh my gosh, I tried the one that's too hot, I don't like it, let me try this, we go, oh my God, I tried the one that's too hot because I'm an idiot. right? Or because I don't know, or because I'm this, I'm damaged, da da da. It's like, okay, well, no, you just tried it. It wasn't right for you. Put it down, continue. And I think we just get so stuck as soon as we try something, it doesn't work out, all this judgment comes up. But if we're curious, we can go, okay, well, I tried this drink. It's too hot. I'm going to move on to the cool one because I'm being curious about this experience. And when we are compassionate and curious, that allows us to create more discernment. It allows us to slow down, like you said. And when we are rushing, we don't have that space for curiosity.
Right.
And without curiosity, there's no compassion. So when we slow down, it actually gives us the opportunity to understand ourselves more, to understand where our choices are coming from. And I believe that the key to it is our feelings, is our emotions. So the emotions are the gateway.
I'm gonna attempt to stay on topic here, but
Hold on one second. Hold that thought. Hold on. I've got someone. Hello. Yes, thank you. Sorry, go.
So, one, I love that theory, right? Like, one, just is the connection, and this is where like my mind just I love to explore, like, and play with these little ideas to like gamify it, because in my head, like that's where I get my preference from. And it's interesting that you say curiosity, because actually for like I would say the past 3 years, well, 3 years ago, I had such a trigger with the word curiosity. I had an ex-partner that used to always say curious, and it would trigger me, because I'm like, why do you want to know? Like, why do you want to know everything? And like in my head, it would cause this frustration. And it's like, oh, I'm just curious. And it just felt so suspicious to me. And when I started to like really dissect, like, okay, what is this? For me, my language was I'm inquisitive, because I've been asking questions my whole life. It's just the same thing in a different language. So it's like sometimes we have this feeling tied to a word, and if we do not, I guess, dissolve that resistance to that word or whatever the case is, sometimes that can hinder us from growth or other things like exploration. So it's like I hear that same concept, because for me, I love preference, and I feel like that has been one tool that has been very useful to really see what is in my central nervous system and what I'm actually feeling, to discern what is a feeling and what is an emotion. Because at my point in my life now, I have a very clear discernment that feeling is of the inside. It's what my central nervous system is like. That's what it's programmed to feel, so that my intuition can tell me, okay, it's this, it's very specific. But as far as emotions, they're very much external. They're kind of like, the way I see it, it's this like external ring, kind of like a bubble. And it's just the water that moves outside. Like sometimes it might come in and it might blow in like the wind, but it's going to move. It's energy that's in motion. But a feeling, I feel like, is a lot more fortified within your central nervous system. It's these like core things of joy, love, fulfillment, these deeper things that really evoke something that's fertilized within you, and I think a lot of us, when we get to that point in time of understanding our body and realizing these things that are happening to us, the experiences that we're having, discerning, okay, what do I actually feel about this? What am I actually feeling here from this external like stimuli, that's happening? But like you said, have that compassion for yourself to actually see and also say, this thing isn't happening, to me. It's not that person. It's not this situation. It's not this environment. How am I responding to this? How would I like to respond to this? Why am I feeling this? And for me, like, that's the curiosity, is to dive deeper into that craving, because when that trigger happens, you're craving something, but
Mm.
there's part of you that's not being fed, or it's in that threat of like, oh, I'm gonna die, or oh, this is gonna be over, or whatever it is, and really make that connection. And I
Mm.
think that's where we kind of invite God in a sense of that creator, is to say, I'm connecting with the God that's inside of me. I'm connecting with myself. Yes. I'm connecting with my body. Yes. I'm connecting with my mind. Yes. Or your chakras, or your meridians, your energy system, your liver, whatever it is, but connect with yourself.
Mm.
Connect with yourself in that compassionate way to ask those questions, and also
Yep.
give yourself permission to ask those questions, because there's many young people, especially when your central nervous system is programmed that way. You may have been shut down. You may have been, you talk too much, or you play too much, or you're not supposed to do that, or you're being told what's right, what's wrong, and
Right.
all these things. So you get so many blockages that sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to explore. So it's
Right.
like you said, that Goldilocks theory of, some people might look at that and be like, oh, she don't know what she wants. Like, she knows exactly what she wants. And that's the thing. It's like, we can try out, we can have that freedom. And if we liberate ourselves by connecting to ourselves, by connecting to that God center, whether, you believe in Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Shakti, whoever, it's like, whatever's inside of you, connect to that. And
Mm.
if there's anything that, you'll be able to take out of this podcast, is create that connection. Create
Mm.
that connection like you are God, like you
Mm.
are the universe,
Mm.
because that connection is what is going to allow you to be the creator, and
Mm.
also liberate yourself from any
Yeah.
of those blockages, any of those cravings, any of those addictions, any of those judgmental thoughts, whatever it is. You're connecting that mind and that body. And it's just similarly like what you said, is almost like what you felt in that circle, right? It's like, oh wow, that's beautiful. It's like you were that feeling, and those emotions were just, the energy was just moving around you. And
Mhm.
then when you finally decided, and you discerned, and you said, this is not for me, and then
Yeah.
you felt that click, it's like, that was the connection.
Yeah, exactly. That is the connection. And life does get busy, and life, does sometimes feel like it's a whirlwind of everyone moving around, and it's culturally, it's social, it's familial, it's relational, all these expectations, all these things that you want to do, and it can get real busy. And the busier that it gets in your mind, and the busier that it gets in your soul, the more disconnected you get from your being, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
from center. So, which is why, like you were saying before, it's so important to slow down, and come back to that center, so that the people and the things that are happening around you don't have more control and power over you than you do of yourself.
Mm.
And I think that's really important, to be able to trust yourself, because curiosity and compassion leads to trust. And when
Right.
you can trust yourself, you give yourself the opportunity to explore, to make mistakes, and to do it with compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't trust yourself, you're like, oh my God, like, if I was to go do this, if I was to enter this relationship, if I was to do this job, if I was to quit, if I was to change my life in any way, am I going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't answer that question for yourself, then you don't have that inner trust, right? If
Right.
you say whatever happens in the next choice, or in the next month or years or whatever, I'm going to be okay. And that
Mm-hmm.
needs to be something that you are really connected to as well. And that's part of the connection, is your self-trust.
I love that. I love that. Yes. And that's such a huge thing. I mean, I can't even explain to you, and I'm sure you 100% know that, which is why it's coming up, is a lot of times that, like, that's where that trust has been broken, or it's been fractured or shattered. And, it's really up to us to piece that together. And I think it's really, this kind of comes into, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but I kind of weigh myself. There has been times where I was very critical about that, in a sense of, this is my responsibility, and like, I'm the only one that's going to be able to do it. And taking this, very strict and very, I mean, it built my discipline, like, like a mother, but it really drove me into this sense of like, whether it was, you know, a best friend of mine for 16 years lying on me and sending me to prison for 3 years, to break a trust like that, the question that was always in my heart, and it wasn't really a question, it was like almost a feeling. It was a feeling because it never shifted. It was like, I have a choice here to stop trusting everybody after that and become, that was the changing thing for me. I'm going to become distrusting, or I can continue to be trusting. And I didn't want to give that up. So it's like, I think sometimes when those things happen to us and we take it as, oh, this is a lesson, this is how I need to be, and we allow it to move us out of that center and we go off in that trajectory, it's like that thing just knocked you off of your center.
Right.
Rather than you absorbing it and being compassionate about it and giving it back to the world, that is a response. And I feel like that is where, as adults now, we're able to do that, and we're able to embrace it more and say, okay, like, I'm either going to be reactive and like react to this thing that just happened and go in this direction and take the long route, or how do I hold into that thing with a regulated central nervous system, transmute it and send it back like as a response. And I feel like that, when you give yourself that slowness, when you give yourself that compassion, when you give yourself that awareness, like we've been talking about this whole time, and you connect to yourself, you give yourself more ability to respond. And for me, that is what responsibility is. It's like you're taking responsibility for this thing that you set out, because you are at the center of it all. But you're not taking it on like, oh, I did this to myself. Oh, this is my fault. Oh, I'm the one that's doing it. It's like, how do you take that in with love, you know, and be compassionate, that saying, okay, this ripple that's coming back and I'm experiencing this trigger, this X, this pattern, this whatever. Oh, that's mine. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to transmute it because I am love, and I create that connection. I'm going to send that right back out. So now it's nice and smooth, and you start to still your own waters, you know. And this is just the Pisces in me that, you know, gets poetic about it. But I feel like that's the fun part, you know, for me, is like visualizing this process that I go through, you know, when I experience it. It's a very visual thing for me, you know. So I feel like that is a part of that question of like, it starts to pose this thing, right? Because now you're talking about trust, right? And some people I know is like, oh, well, I don't really, how do I trust myself? What do I do? And you want that, like, you're that solution oriented, you know, kind of thing. But if we kind of shift the perspective into like a goal oriented, right? And we look at the process, what would you say is that forgiveness of ourself to really, I guess, integrate that past, like those things that happen to us? How do we integrate that past, but also take responsibility? Like how does one do that, whether if it's somatically, with their, you know, inner child integration? How would you recommend somebody do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because that's part of the work that I do with my one-on-one clients, is that we go back into we allow whatever big emotion that they're feeling to lead us to the story that emotion is attached to. The story or the experience that emotion is attached to. And then we go into that experience, we go into that memory, and we find the compassion in that memory, we find the inner child in that memory and that experience, and we literally just sit with it. We sit with the emotion that inner child was feeling in that time, and how the person, the adult, is feeling in this moment. And we're able to give that version of them what they needed at that time. And I think that's what it needs to do. And that's what I was saying before, is like everything comes back to our emotions. I think emotions are our signal. I always compare it to like the petrol signal. What do you guys call it? You don't call it petrol. What do you call it?
Gas.
Gas.
The gasoline.
Like that.
You say petrol over here, it's like petroleum jelly. Like, is it Vaseline?
Yeah, that's for something else. We call it petrol. Yeah. Okay, so gas. I guess you can call it gas. So the signal
With
in
the petrol.
say petrol. The signal in the car tells you, hey, something is wrong. Right? It tells you, hey, something's wrong with the car, like you need to put some gas in. And if you ignore it, you're going to break down. And if you break down, now you have created more chaos. Right? Well, the car is broken down. Now you got to get in contact with someone to come and help you. Oh my God, now my phone is out of charge. Like it just like flows and flows and flows. And there's like creating chaos after chaos after chaos. But if we just pull back and we listen to that first signal, and we go, oh, hey, something is wrong because it's literally flashing in my face. Let me pull over, let me stop, let me figure out what I need to do, right? And that's what emotions are. So the simplest answer to your question is we have to become very aware of our emotion and we have to be able to name it.
Yes, I love that.
Because
first of all, I love that framing of that, and I'm gonna borrow that. I ain't gonna steal it. I'm gonna borrow it. I'm gonna give it back one day.
Definitely stealing it.
I think that is such a perfectly good frame is to like see that, right? It's like when we're experiencing those emotions outside, it's just something that's showing you something. But it's like as humans, oh wow. If you are in that survival state and you are craving connection so much, sometimes you connect to the emotion. And when you connect to the emotion, you get attached to the identify. It's like, I am angry. I am frustrated. I am mad. I am depressed. I am mad. You are literally affirming that I am that emotion. So you come out of that feeling and you're no longer feeling. That's the desensitizing. It's all of this stuff that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And you're still playing out that enmeshment between the craving and the connection, and you're craving connection. And when that emotion comes up, you crave that connection to that emotion so that you can feel something.
Exactly.
But that emotion is going to go. And then you're left feeling what?
It should go. Right? I think sometimes when we attach to an emotion, we get so attached to it that we want to keep it around. But emotions are like your friend that you want to see, right? They come over, you say hi, you hang out, and then you say bye, right? What emotions need to be like. It can't be like that guest that comes over and they're like, hey, I just need a place to crash for a week. And then like 10 months later, they're still on your couch. Like, it's not good.
Yes, that is, oh my God, it's so interesting you say that, because just like you said that you use that gas frame, that's the term, that's the frame that I use. Like I usually create this home that they're in and I give them, these little cues to do it. And then it's like, okay, invite that emotion in, or hold that emotion at the door, have a talk with it, okay, bring it in, let it sit. But also, like, are you going to serve it tea? Like, how does it feel in your home, And to give them that felt body experience, like, all right, yeah, actually, it needs to go. Like, this lethargy or this procrastination, like, you got to go. It's like, oh, okay, I get it now. So now you know how to respond to this emotion when you see it. So, yes, I love that frame of giving this, like, almost expiration date or just a timing thing. And I think that is the best gift that we can give ourselves, is by slowing down. And when we slow down our central nervous system, that for me personally is how we orient in space and time. It's like our central nervous system. If you're on go, 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 your day is going to go by so fast. It's going to go by so fast. The more you slow down, the more you can live life, and the more youthful you are, the more energy you have, because you are taking things as they're coming. You're almost savoring it, rather than like scarfing down your food. And it's like, oh, I got to eat real quick. Oh, it's fast food. It's like, why do I got to eat real quick? I want to connect to my food. I like touching my food, I want to pick it up. I want to play with it. I want to get those sensory glands and make my salivation and, do all of the things and get the gut biome and all of those things. But for me, that is also like have been one of those things, because I love cooking. I love food. And that has also been that reframing, is like that same craving and that connection. It's like, connect with it, touch it, like I always encourage people, even if you don't feel in your body, you know, touch your body, do some somatic stuff. Like, I'm a massage therapist. I love it. That's a part of connection, you know, and like I do it to myself. And I think when we start to come into this aspect of forgiveness for ourselves, we can have fun with it and be playful with it, and
Right.
really understand that as a creator, I can literally, once I see it and acknowledge it, not just see it and be like, oh yeah, that's my coping mechanism. Oh, I'm gonna keep doing the same shit. It's like, see it and acknowledge it, meaning like give action to the knowledge you just attained. Do something about it, interact with it, touch it, you know, like don't be afraid of it, be curious, you know, play with it and say,
Right.
okay, wow, what do I need? How to, and you create the different ways that it can look. Like, you know, you were talking about how you go into dance and you've moved your body and you do somatic therapeutics and all of these different things that you've used with your body, because that is your emotion to express. That is your tool, that is your vehicle. And it's like, when we start to give ourselves that liberation, that is a part of forgiving ourselves, you know, of going back into that past, and whether it be integrating that younger child and giving what you have now in the present to them, or even receiving something from them, you know, receiving that play from them that you don't play now, you know, and maybe you have a youthful, playful inner child and you lock them down, you know, and it's like liberating them and bringing that union into one. And that makes me really just think about, that is the deepest part of connection, you know, like if we can start to learn to connect with ourself in
Right.
many different ways. And I'm not sitting there saying like, oh, just love yourself. It's self-love and you can do everything yourself.
It's through creativity, it's through expression, it's through moving your body, it's through walking, it's through sunlight. It's like there's so many ways in order to connect to yourself. And through that connection comes self-love. I think too many people talk about attaining self-love. It's like, but people don't know how to attain it, because there's the way to attain it. It's not something that's tangible, right? It's something that's felt.
Yes.
You have to be able to go through that feeling in order to get to that self-love. And yeah, like you said, it's you can experience that connection in lots and lots of different ways. But I think the issue is that we live in a society that tells us that our connection has to come externally, right? Like from when kids, we're always like, the questions that people always ask is like, how many friends do you have at school? Like, who are you going to marry? Who do you have a crush on? Or do you have a boyfriend? Do you have what are you going to do? How old do you want to be when you get married? How many kids do you want? So it's like all these like external connections that keeps being reinforced, when true connection has to begin from within. And that leads to authentic connection externally.
Yes.
And that has to be the pathway. It can't be out in, it has to be in out. And then the outside world is created through your internal connection. And I think this is what leads a lot of people into addiction, is because they don't have that internal connection. So they feel less than, and because they're not connected to their emotion. That's what addiction does. Addiction allows you to either not feel something or feel something, right? A lot of people say, oh, when I drink, I get to feel fun and excited, right? Or when I take certain drugs, what I get to feel is I'm disconnected. I don't want to feel this pain and right? So there's like either side of the coin, but at the end of the day, what you're doing is not sitting with it. You're trying to either create it artificially or trying to, ignore it.
Yeah.
And the more you sit with yourself and being able to create that connection to self, all of that goes away. And I work in an addiction and rehab center, and I talk to women who are at risk of homelessness due to violence at home, right? And the interplay between romantic relationships and familial relationships and addiction is insane. They're like one and the same. The disconnection in a familial way or in their community or society leads them to choosing romantic partners who are also disconnected, are unhealthy, aren't great for them. So now what they've done is they've built a life and a community out of people that are not right for them, that are harmful for them. And then they go, okay, well, this must be what I deserve.
Right.
And then the
Right.
pain that they feel within that space, they go, well, I don't want to feel this pain anymore, so let me just turn to something. And we live in a world where we place things as bad or good, right? So it's like, okay, addiction to alcohol and drugs is bad, but addiction to work and working out and, you know, looking good is
And
good.
coffee.
Right, correct. Like all these things. So it's like we place certain addictions into good and certain addictions into bad based on what we get rewarded for, right?
Mhm.
And that
That's
is
the reward system. Yeah.
the reward system. So we get rewarded for certain things. So we want to chase that high through that. But at the end of the day, addiction is whatever it is, whether it's sex and masturbation or alcohol and drugs, whatever it is, working, shopping, it's all a way for us to avoid feeling.
Right.
So the
Right.
more we feel, the less we'll have, less addiction we'll have in the world, right? The more connected we are to self, the less addiction we'll have in the world, and less desensitization of our being.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that people know that, again, when you strip it all back and you look at your biology, look at your physiology, there are certain things that's happening in your body that also rewards you for certain behavior, right? So every time you feel disconnected, the body goes, oh my God, I don't have oxytocin, which is the connection hormone. I don't have enough of this, but I need this. So a shortcut to that is dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then we chase things that give us that dopamine hit. But dopamine is highly addictive because it is a chase, and it is a shot of dopamine, and then it has a really harsh drop.
Mm-hmm.
So we're constantly on a high and then it drops. So then we have to chase that high. Whereas oxytocin is a really low addiction. There's pretty much no addiction because it's a slow release, right? And it's all about connection. And you can get, like we were saying before, you can get oxytocin from a hug, from petting a dog, from a conversation, from eye contact, from getting a massage, all these things that are that fill you and make you feel connected. But the more connected we feel, the more we chase dopamine. And I think because the things that oftentimes we chase with dopamine gets rewarded, right? There's a high reward for it. So then it just becomes a cycle of addiction.
Oh, yes. I love it. That it was so eloquently pieced together, and like understanding this full cycle, how we come back around to the beginning of this sense of what connection actually truly looks like, and even back down to the biological cellular level that's happening with the chemicals in your body. And it's
Right.
like, give yourself that grace, because when we're looking at being on, Instagram, or, being on social media, eating, sex, whatever you are doing right now, when you take that full cycle and you come all the way back around to the beginning, it's like really understanding that there's no difference between whether you're addicted to shopping, or you're craving shopping, or you're craving cocaine. It's like, it's still affecting you at a chemical level. Doesn't
Right.
matter if you're craving, survival, or you're craving tribe when, you're back with our ancestors, or you're looking at that sense of threat and that connection from, being in community now, going to brunch. It's literally the same thing happening. And if we can see that wider perspective, and to really look at ourselves and how small we are, and say, wow, I am a fractal, but how am I showing up for myself right now? And what is an actionable step? And like really rest into that freedom to say, you have that choice now, and to break the cycle, to not continue in something two-dimensionally cyclical, but start to create a spiral to move forward into a direction that you're choosing, and continuously grow in that way. And this is exactly like what you said in the beginning, is to move forward, to start to see ourselves and live in this joy. And move forward in your life, but with that fun, you know, because when we're seeing this craving and we're craving that connection, we start to dissect it and break it down and allow the feelings in. And sometimes, yes, it can be overwhelming, but trust and know that it's, once you slow down, it's going to take its time. And this thing incrementally has happened over thousands and thousands of years, you know, and you're just experiencing it now. Just be happy that you have community, you have this connection, you have this podcast, you have people that are around you, you have, you know, the dog in your apartment, you have your next door neighbor, you have whoever, you know, but also understand that when you start to crave the connection, if your only connection is coming through digital, or your only connection is coming through, you know, going to the club or whatever it is, step back and take that responsibility to look at your life and really be honest with yourself and really give that to yourself in a compassionate way and say, what do I need here? And connect with yourself. So I feel like a lot of what we went through here, I feel like that can definitely pour into like another 4 hours of just really breaking this down and going into it. But we're gonna milk you guys and bring you in to the next episode that we're gonna come around, and we're gonna choose on one of these topics, because I really love having Shannon here and just diving through all of this. And we continuously have conversations like this, and you know, like we get deep. And even though you a day ahead of me, catch up.
You're a little bit slow. That's okay.
Exactly. I'm a little finding Nemo. But I have no problem swimming in your wake, and you're just always like a breath of fresh air. Like I said, that zap of energy and just everything that you bring to the table, how you eloquently just put things together in such grace. It's like, it is literally like watching you dance with the words. And I see how you connect the somatics to this type of work. And I just love that you have such a community around you. You're so impactful. So I want people to know like where they can find you. I'm pretty sure a few people fell in love with your accent. Like, where can they find your social? How can people look for Shannon and connect with you?
Okay. I mean, it's my socials and everything is just my full name. So Shannon Natasha, and then it's my last name, HSU. So that's my Instagram, that's my website. And then I also, you know, holding retreat. We're doing a retreat together, Max and I, in October in Sri Lanka. Yeah. So come through to that. And you can get all that information on our Instagram as well, my Instagram as well. Yes.
And obviously, you know, if you're following this podcast and you listen to it, all the details will be in the bottom. And you're always, most likely, if you're listening to this, you know me, you're following me on Instagram too. So shout out to you. And I appreciate all your support for following this page and really tuning into these theoried hearts that I really like to bring into this, and this true healing that comes from just being a fucking normal person, you know, and not having pills and, you know, PhDs and all this crazy stuff, but to really connect to an actual person and to really break it down and sip on his tea, like how we would be doing. So if you are also interested in coming to Sri Lanka to enjoy our wellness retreat, drop a comment below and we can send you all the information for that as well. But for now, we are encapsulating, closing this beautiful container. Thank you so much, Shannon, for showing up in your lovely orange headdress, in all your beauty and all your splendor and all your intelligence. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let it pour on me. And I hope it's poured on all of you. And hopefully you took something from this and bring more connection into your craving. And let's keep moving forward, people. Let's keep frequently speaking what we frequently see. I'll check y'all next time. Adios.
Bye.
If you like this episode and would like to explore more perspectives like this with me, as we get a bit more intimate and intricate look into our internal vibrations, Be sure to tune in to next week's episode and subscribe for more. Until then, keep frequently speaking what you frequently see.